Welcome to the KOMO Sports End Zone podcast with KOMO Sports Director Niko Tamurian and Najee Moye.
Well, how's it going? Welcome to a special early week edition of the KOMO Sports End Zone podcast. I'm Niko Tamurian, KOMO Sports Director, and of course, this is Najee Moye. What's up, Najee?
Niko, how's it going? What's going on, man?
I'll tell you what, I'm still starting to dry out from Corvallis the other night.
Yeah, it was soaked in Corvallis. You had a good time, it looks like.
Yeah, well, dogs win is always fun.
Right.
Photographer Matt Landers was drenched. I was drenched too, but he shot the whole game. So shout out to Matt Landers.
Shout out to Matt Landers.
Real trooper out there.
Oh, yeah.
And the dogs are 11-0 for only the second time in school history.
Congratulations to the dogs. That was a great game. Honestly, that was a game that the Huskies fans, of course, any win for the Huskies, the fans will love. But honestly, the defense showed up, definitely. And obviously, Michael Penix Jr., Rome Odunze. I mean, just another step, just another week in the gauntlet that they have to go through with their ridiculous schedule, but also on the road in Corvallis in the rain. Oh, my gosh. Yeah. No.
Yeah.
Love the win. Tight win against a really, really good team. Who doesn't, what's not to love?
That's exactly what I love about this, Najee. I think that if you're the type of team like the Dogs that are going for this championship and trying to, make this happen, these are the kind of wins that, when they make, okay, I'm going to date myself here, when they make the title DVD to send out,
wow.
or when they make it more accurately, the TikTok or the YouTube clip, whatever it might
edit,
be.
yeah.
The edit. Thank you.
You want the physical edit though, also. I know you make the TikTok edits now, but you miss getting that DVD at the end of the year, You miss getting that CD at the end of the year.
Thank you.
You can pass that along.
Saving.
No, I agree with you though. But TikTok edit is great though for likes. Get both.
The edit.
Yes.
You're gonna see moments of this Oregon State win. In addition to the Oregon, the Utah, the Arizona State. I mean, there's just so many. Yeah, there's so many. USC even.
Yeah.
There's so many of these moments that the Dogs have just proven time and time again that they can win in these big moments. And they did it once again, 11-0. And of course, the big one now. Not big one by rankings or anything, that big one because it's the Apple Cup and there's always going to be animosity there. And at least we know now it's not the last one. We'll talk at length about that in a minute.
Right.
Dogs favored by 16 in the Apple Cup. Cougs just absolutely obliterated Colorado. And that was a sign for a team that had lost 6 in a row that maybe they're back.
Maybe.
Yeah.
I mean, the Cougs look good at the beginning of the year. How about that for Colorado, though? Also, little parentheses. I know it's the first year of the Dion, the prime performance, but, the Cougs also have a very, very powerful offense. We saw that at the beginning of the year. We saw that last week. Colorado's having some issues. If there's one game that I'm, as a Husky fan, should be nervous about, put the Pac-12 championship aside for a second. And I think of all games, even before the season even started, this is the Apple Cup you need to be concerned about.
No question about it.
Because, I was doing some research. Yeah, okay, stats. Yeah, you can't do any research for the Apple Cup. It's the Apple Cup. Put it over here. Put it separate. It's completely separate from everything else.
I'm a big proponent of any game. Listen, stats and matchups are critical. I'm not trying to dismiss that.
We love X's and O's as much as the next two podcasters,
Without question.
Of course.
But you've heard me say this a million times. I'm a big proponent of getting a feel for the game.
Yeah.
And the feel I have for this game, even with the extension of the rivalry, it is the last matchup in the Pac-12 for these two schools, which is just insane to say still. Yeah. I get that UW leaving was a survival move, and it was the right move given the circumstances. There's no debating that. But there's also no debating the nostalgia of this game because it is the last one as a league game. And and this is, I was, in the Oregon State press box Saturday, they literally said this exact same line. My camera moved on me. We're going to switch you over, buddy.
He's tracking.
There we go.
He's tracking.
Hello.
He's tracking on dubs.
These AI cameras, there's something. There we go.
There you go.
Okay.
There you go.
Yeah, I'm right here, camera. There we go. But whatever Oregon State was saying about the idea or the notion of they would like nothing more than to send this team out with ending their national title hopes.
Yeah.
I mean, that's tenfold for WSU.
Oh, that's definitely spite. The last episode, if you guys are listening, I talked a lot about spite. Oregon State really, I'm sure maybe that was the feeling in Corvallis. I'm not sure if you felt that. Maybe from the Beaver fans and maybe the players definitely, they really just wanted to just really give one to Washington because if they would have lost, if UW would have lost, that would basically tank their season. And I think Wazoo's thinking that same thing. But then again, Wazoo always has this kind of ability to, if they win the Apple Cup. I know it's been a while, just they can tank UW season in a very, very, very specific and spicy way that I think will make a lot of Coug fans very, very happy, which is why Huskies fans should be nervous about this week.
You think they should be nervous about it? Like, that's how close you think it'll be?
Yeah, I mean, and it's not even based upon talent.
Is this extra point time for Najee?
I think so.
Let's do it.
And it's not even based upon talent. I just think about, given the week we had this, up until this week, we were just kind of like, we saw UW schedule for next year a couple of weeks ago, their Big Ten schedule. And it did initially obviously had the Apple Cup in it. There was a couple open weeks. Like, okay, maybe, a Wazoo game will be going somewhere. Now we know it'll carry on for the next 5 years. However, that being said, the chance to play spoiler for any team at the end of the year, then, it may not be in the best position as Wazoo is compared to UW. The ability to play spoiler, I mean, you got to reach for that. That's something that fans will remember forever. That's maybe the only, if the Cougs win, that may be the only decent thing that they have to remember from this past season. What do you think, Niko?
I think there's certainly merit to the notion that this thing is everything to the Cougs football program.
Yeah.
I mean, we heard Jake Dickert saying just a couple weeks ago, about how, when this season, as soon as this season ends, all of his young, good players are going to be poached by big schools with big NIL budgets. And that makes me really sad to hear, but he's also speaking truth. You look at some of these programs that even are in Power 5 leagues like the Cougs and some other ones, they lose their best players to big money. I mean, I look at this is not going to make a lot of sense to the Pacific Northwest, but it's a good example. Syracuse Orange football last year, they started 6-0. They finished like 7-6 or something. They lost their best cornerback to LSU for millions of dollars. They lost their best linebacker to Ohio State. And the irony is neither one's playing very much. In fact, the cornerback left the team and isn't even playing anymore. So it's not like the grass is always greener. I mean, they got paid. So, okay,
it depends on what you want, I guess.
Yeah. And so, but that's the new state of college athletics. And to Jake Dickert's point, I think you're going to see a lot of that with some really talented kids in Pullman going to other schools for the financials, but also for the opportunity to, be on the biggest stage of this new landscape of the Big Ten, the SEC, and to a certain extent, the ACC and Big 12. I think it's going to be too visibility fold and with financials. And so when you say all that, it's my long rambling way of saying that this is it. Yeah. This is it. These guys are not going to be together after this game unless they win and go to a bowl game, which they need to win for bowl eligibility.
See, and there's that also. So, I mean, there's a lot riding on this game for both teams. I mean, I hope the whole entire nation is watching this game. I mean,
they should
because given for college football playoff seeding, obviously people in Georgia are kind of obviously curious. Florida State impacted this week because of their starting quarterback going down, Jordan Travis. So there's some things to look out for here. But this game also has national intrigue, specifically for the Huskies. Now you alluded to the future of the Apple Cup a little bit beforehand, Niko. I mean, I mentioned about it'll be 5 years. They signed a 5-year deal. To extend that, what do you think about that? Is the next one going to be in Seattle, but not exactly a Husky Stadium?
I think that this is a win for college football fans. And I know this is a divisive thing because you could have my opinion, right, which is the one thing more than anything else we are losing with all this conference stuff is the purity of college football. The reason you love college football is the rivalry. You love to hate the Cougs if you're a dog. If you're an Oregon State Beaver, you love to hate the Ducks. Whatever it is, right?
Right.
That's going away unless you do something like UW and WSU did. And for me, that was huge to preserve this little semblance of tradition in a college football landscape that is increasingly becoming devoid of it.
Yeah.
And on top of that, let's not forget rather that these schools are embroiled in a big legal battle right now.
Yeah.
And they set that aside to do the right thing and continue this rivalry. Now that's me saying that I'm not naive to the other side of the argument here. And I'm not saying the other side of the argument is wrong because I think there's merit to both sides.
Right.
If you're a Coug and you're of the mindset saying, well, you know what? The Huskies don't deserve the Apple Cup anymore because they're leaving for the Big Ten. And if they wanted to keep the Apple Cup, they stay in the Pac-12. I get it. If you're a Husky, I've seen this a lot on social media. Well, we're done with the Cougs. They're small time. We're in the Big Ten now. I don't personally agree with it, but I understand where you're coming from.
Yeah, that's a hot take, man.
I've seen that a lot on social, though.
I don't know, but I think if you speak to other Cougs or the Cougs around the state or around anywhere else, they would say that's indicative of the what they expect from Huskies. I guess. I'm just happy that this rivalry will continue, though. I mean, you mentioned amidst the legal battle, just a tradition is kind of one thing that college football was big on for a long time, more so than the NFL.
Yeah.
Or any other.
Well, I think that's the difference between the two
difference.
leagues. Yeah.
It's keeping it going, though. But at least in this instance, I think will be great. It remains to be seen what will happen between Oregon State and Oregon, for example. But, we just hope the Civil War continues as well.
And I've heard talks that it will.
Yeah.
I think that I like that this game continues for all the reasons you said.
Yeah.
It's a cool vibe. I'm neutral in this. I think it's a cool
vibe. That's a disclaimer from Niko. I'm neutral in this.
It is a cool vibe to see the genuine dislike.
Yeah.
Between a Husky and a Coug.
Yeah. It's nice though.
It's what college rivalries are built on.
Yeah.
And so the fact that they found a way to keep it going,
a respectful hate.
And nice. I'll give props to UW. And we heard their athletic director Troy Dannon say that listen, he wants to keep this rivalry going, but at the same time, the business model, they have to play 7 home games, and we get that.
Right.
Especially in the uncertain future financials in college sports. Even if UW's future is secure going to the Big Ten, he has said they need 7 home games. And, well, you're playing this year's Apple Cup here in Seattle, so you would be asking the Cougs to come to Seattle twice in a row to make that happen.
Right.
And that's probably a non-starter for WSU, who needs money more than ever with their uncertainty. So for UW to say, you know what? Okay, we need this money for 7th game, but we understand the importance of this rivalry. And to come to a compromise of playing it at Lumen Field, a neutral site, even if it is in Seattle, and genuinely speaking, without having the terms of the deal in front of me, which the terms are not public at this point, they will be at some point, I'm sure. But generally speaking, when you have these NFL stadiums that host college games, whether it's, MetLife Stadium hosting Notre Dame, which happens occasionally. And I've seen
or Yankee Stadium.
Yeah, Yankee Stadium. Yeah. I've seen the Superdome have LSU in it and things like that.
Right.
Generally speaking, when you get these, and there's always that pregame, or rather preseason game in Atlanta at the Peach Bowl / Atlanta Falcons Stadium. Generally speaking, when you have those games, the schools get paid a healthy amount of money.
Yeah.
And so you're ensuring to keep the rivalry alive. You're ensuring both sides get some money, and then you get back into the regular rotation of the home and home starting in Pullman in 2025. I think it was a big sacrifice, but especially on the UW front, to find a way to make this happen. So I give them a lot of credit. I also give the Cougs credit for putting a little bit of pride aside, even though they probably feel betrayed to an extent, even though I don't think it was betrayal. I think the Huskies did what they had to do.
Yeah. But, it still looks, like betrayal though.
For sure. No question.
Yeah. It still definitely looks like betrayal. I'm excited to see that game at Lumen Field.
Yeah.
Like personally, I'm like, oh, wow, that's interesting. I mean, we know Lumen Field, obviously Niko's familiar with the place.
Yeah, I go there a lot. Yeah.
Yeah. He's been there a lot. And he's just seeing a college game there, it's I can't think of, the last time, maybe Niko will know better than me. The last time a collegiate sporting football game was there, but it'd be, I can just imagine that
the Cougs used to play an occasional. I mean, it wasn't called Lumen at the time,
right?
But the Cougs have played occasional games there.
Okay.
It was weird though. I remember it was like Rutgers, it was Oklahoma State, it was
really
other Power 5 league teams, but not exactly like the
right.
Ohio States and Michigans of the world kind of thing.
I see. What are you expecting to see in the Apple Cup? Like, I mean,
this week or
in the actual game.
Here's what I think. I think there's a really good point to be made, as you did earlier about. And I did to an extent too about the Cougs, nothing to lose. This means so much to them. That all said, man, the Dogs are good.
Yeah, they're really good.
That team, not only have they found a way to win any time they've hit adversity. I love Michael Penix Jr. telling me we hit adversity in the mouth. I love that quote.
I love it. That's good.
They're also really good. This is a team. I think they're the best team in the country right now. Ooh. They have the best resume in the country right now.
Well, definitely the best resume, I would say.
I'm going to go on a rant here.
Given the schedule, Niko's about to take about 5 minutes.
We're going to go extra point for a second here.
Yeah, there you go.
And then I promise you we'll come back to reality here.
Niko has the floor.
I think they are. If this was the NCAA tournament where there's like a number 1 overall seed,
right,
which is actually built on merit and not the eye test, what I think is so silly.
Yeah.
We talked about this last week. I think UW would be the overall number 1 seed. They have the toughest strength of schedule of any of the playoff contenders. including in the obviously
it's been
independent
vicious.
teams. They have more ranked wins. I mean, the committee was saying last week, like, oh, well, you can't discount that win that Florida State had over unranked Miami.
What?
Oh, but okay. And I know you're a Canes fan. Sorry.
Well,
but,
I mean, it's not. It's not numbers. It's not
yeah,
rankings.
But here's the thing, man. Like, if you're gonna say that, if you're gonna give Florida State credit for a win over an unranked Miami team, and I know it's a rivalry, whatever, then you can't penalize or hold Washington back for beating Oregon, which, by the way, is the best win for any of the college football playoff contenders. Highest ranked win for any of them. Yep. You can't hold that against them. You can't hold the beating a ranked at the time Utah, USC, and now certainly Oregon State.
In
right?
Oregon State.
You beat two. I mean, Oregon State will probably take a dip, and they shouldn't, honestly.
And that USC game was in LA too.
Right. Yeah. I mean, the same. It makes no sense. It's just like this logic they spew out there, like, wow, the Miami one's impressive. Okay, then what about Oregon and Oregon State? What about USC, Utah? Arizona is a heck of an impressive win right now as the Wildcats continue to play better.
Exactly. Let me tell you, I am a Miami Hurricanes fan. I can tell you that the Florida State Seminoles should be happy that they beat the Hurricanes. However, I think every team that the Huskies have played this year outside of Akron and Toledo are better than University of Miami, honestly.
That's what I'm saying. And
I mean, even including Stanford,
angers
me. So I completely get that. I'm expecting best team in the country. Me and Niko may have some disagreements there. I think
it's okay. Well, it's hard to go against Georgia.
Georgia's really good.
Yeah.
Ohio State is super good. Michigan has some of the same, as I mentioned last week, has some of the same schedule. And schedule foibles are not anyone's fault, really, when you talk about the team. But Michigan has the same kind of issues that Florida State has. Okay, you're hanging your hat on a wet win, Now they beat Ohio State. I'm ready to eat my own words at that point.
Yeah.
But Washington's got a great. I mean, Michael Penix could win the Heisman. Okay, he's got some of the best receivers in the nation, honestly, and that defense, which I've been hard on all year this year, definitely stepped up against Oregon State.
Yeah.
And I know how good Washington is. Everyone does. I've got a sinking feeling, not a sinking feeling, but just this is a different animal, but also a different beast. So
it's here's what I'll say.
I had more confidence maybe in the Pac-12 championship game versus the Apple Cup. How about that?
Sure, and that's a great point to make too, because I can sit here and be so upset at the committee, but I do ultimately think this stuff works itself out.
Yeah.
If UW takes care of business against the Cougs and then either Oregon or Arizona in the Pac-12 championship, it's settled. They're going. Right?
Yeah.
It's and certainly you'd have to imagine the loser of Michigan, Ohio State, is out of the college football playoff. That would be the thought, unless they sneak in instead of Florida State, who lost Jordan Travis the rest of the year. But I think that it does sort itself out. But it just bothers me because it's a bias thing.
Yeah.
I mean, like
we mentioned it last week.
Yeah, you got people talking about Jaden Daniels at LSU for the Heisman. And I think he may be one of the best quarterbacks in the country. But Penix is undefeated. What has he done to not win the Heisman?
Who didn't Jordan Travis throw 8 touchdowns against?
Oh, I was saying Jaden Daniels at LSU, but Jordan.
Yeah. Well, Jordan.
Oh, but Jordan.
Yeah.
I mean,
exactly. Who was that against? I can't even remember. Exactly. This is what I'm talking about here.
It's interesting.
It's interesting. If we're going off of numbers, some numbers may be inflated. Malcolm Penix has great numbers against actual good teams versus whoever Jaden Daniels threw 8 touchdowns against.
Yeah,
I'm gonna look it up right now.
And while you're looking that up, I keep trying to move up, and then the camera moves with me. It's like, no, I don't want to. It's I don't like AI.
They track too well or not.
No, I
well
need
enough.
to be I'm already shorter. I want my head up here. I don't want it down here.
No. No.
Yours is like, you know what? I like you right there now.
I was wondering because it's kind of pointed to my chest a bit.
And I tried to move it, and it just was like, nope.
I'm
just like, at this point, it is what it is. But look, if I raise my hand, it's like, wait, what did you just do? Anyway, yes, I'm amused easily. I'll wrap up some of that stuff with this while you're looking that up. I think that it does work itself out. What if you're asking me to predict what the Final Four is, what the actual college football playoff
My phone
is
trying to sabotage.
I think it ends up being Georgia is the 1 seed against the 4 seed, which is the loser of Ohio State, Michigan. And then I think you have the winner of Ohio State, Michigan is the 2 against number 3, Washington in the Rose Bowl. They're going to want to try and keep that Big Ten Pac-12 one final time at the Rose Bowl.
I can see that.
And I think that, so I think it's Georgia 1, Ohio State or Michigan winner 2, Dogs 3, and then Ohio State, Michigan loser 4. Even if Florida State is undefeated, actually, I'm going on a limb on that because I think that I don't think they'll. I think Louisville beats them without Jordan Travis in the ACC title game, but I also think that.
And you don't think Louisville gets in? No.
I think I think if you're talking about that 4th spot and assuming Georgia's 1, Big Ten champion is 2, Dogs are 3 in that scenario,
right?
Assuming the Dogs beat the Cougs and then Pac-12 title game, the 4th spot goes to either a 1-loss Big Ten runner-up, undefeated Florida State, or 1-loss Alabama/Texas. And I still think Ohio State, Michigan gets the nod there because it will have been the best loss, if that's a term. In other words,
right.
Your 1 loss was to number 2 in the country.
You think,
and especially if it's a close game.
Yeah, and I think it will be a close game. Generally, those games are.
Yeah.
It was Georgia State, by the way. Georgia State.
Kidding. They have a good program. I'm not trying to knock them.
Well, I am. I mean, it's just like, do you want to do score predictions for the Apple Cup? I'm nervous too, and I'm not sure if I'm scared to, which is why I'm asking Niko to go first. Dead silence. Exactly. It's kind of a hard to.
I always pick these numbers that come to my head, and they haven't steered me too wrong yet.
No,
I'm gonna say 38-21 Huskies, but I think you know what? What am I talking about? It's gonna be like 48-31. Just bump it up 10 points.
The reason why there was such a long pause that you just mentioned is because if you've been listening to this podcast the past couple of weeks, we've actually been doing pretty good.
I know. It's like, I gotta but we've been good just kind of going off the cuff though. So it's kind of like, all right.
There is a science of going off of the cuff, Niko, don't you know? I think, like all Pac-12 games, you can expect it to be high scoring, I believe, and I'm gonna expect similar things because of the offenses that we're used to seeing from UW and from Wazoo. I think it's going to be like a 40-28 game. I think Huskies will win by quite a bit. I think it will be hairy at first.
Harry the Husky?
Yeah, Harry the Husky. I think it'll be kind of spicy at first. It may not be so easy. Everyone, it may not be so comfortable, but it is the last, Pac-12 Apple Cup, so no one's going to be comfortable to begin with. So
I just think this game is weird.
It is weird. Yeah, it is weird. But I'm happy that it's happening. I'm happy that's going to happen next year and the 4 years after that, at least.
This is the right call to continue the game. I understand, I understand both sides of the argument when folks were saying they don't want it to continue. I get that.
I don't understand.
Like if you're a Coug, a good friend was telling me from the Coug perspective, assuming that Dicker is right, that you're going to lose a lot of your guys to NIL stuff at other schools. Assuming that within a couple of years, that's all it takes for this transition to like somehow elevate UW even more and demote, for lack of a better term, WSU further.
Right.
That if you're a Coug, you're continuing this rivalry by the time 2028 or even 2027, maybe sooner rolls around, you're on a completely different plane than the Dogs and they run over you.
Yeah, there's.
But I mean, how is that much different than like last? I don't know. I mean, the Cougs won in 20. I'm just kidding. The Cougs won in 21 here at Husky Stadium.
All the Cougs.
But yeah, but I still think it's a rivalry. Like, how many times has Georgia Tech beaten Georgia in recent years? They still play it.
All the Coug fans are tuning out of the podcast.
I know. I love the Cougs too. Pullman's a special place. It is.
I do understand what Niko means though, but I know the Husky or the Cougs are kind of like in talks with the Mountain West, to.
Yeah,
so, and I think the drop off there'll be a drop off, and it
won't be a lot though.
It may not be as significant as I think the Cougs have been in worse positions, versus the Huskies in the past, right?
I think that that's a tough league when you've got Oregon State, Washington State, the likes of Boise State, San Diego State. I think UNLV as a program, as Vegas continues to be like a boom sports town.
Sure,
UNLV could be that next mid-major on the rise. And I'm going to say this, man, I do not discount the notion that maybe the Big 12, as we continue to gobble up schools and all this stuff, that the Big 12 maybe takes in WSU and Oregon State.
It's possible.
They've been eyeing Gonzaga on the basketball front. You give Gonzaga a travel partner, inviting WSU for all schools.
You give Gonzaga.
I wouldn't bet on it, but I also don't think the door is shut on the Big 12 to the Cougs.
Well,
and Beavers for that
little
matter.
Parentheses, I give Gonzaga a decent basketball schedule for once.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I think that's part of it. And I think that, conference realignment, the last big round before the last couple of years, the one about 10 to 12 years ago, was driven so much by TV markets. It's why a school like Rutgers, as garbage as they are usually in athletics,
hot garbage,
is in the Big Ten.
Right.
And they look pretty good this year, actually. Shiano's there doing a good job. But that's how they got in the Big Ten, despite like decades upon decades upon decades of futility outside of a couple good years under Coach Shiano in his first tenure there in the mid 2000s. That didn't get him in the Big Ten. Their access to the New York City market did. So this time around, it's about the product you bring to the table. And the Cougs have always get good ratings because, if the notion is that, well, they're in the middle of nowhere, Pullman, and Pullman's a small town, but there's a ton of alums.
Yeah. Oh, boy.
Here in Seattle.
It's a college town too. Also.
Yeah. So I think that notion is wrong. And I do think that the people see the product. They see that they're always competitive. And I think that it's a good product out there. And they fit the Big 12 profile.
Right.
Oklahoma State is not in a big market. It's Stillwater.
Right.
I can go on and on down the list. Waco, Texas isn't a big market where
Right.
Baylor is. Lubbock certainly isn't.
No.
Yeah, they are these cool towns that have forged these really strong programs. Baylor, won a national title in basketball a couple years ago, and then their football team was in the New York Six. All that good stuff. Almost beat TCU last year. So
historically good.
Yeah, that's I guess the point. And the Cougs have had similar moments of greatness in football with, Rose Bowl in the late 90s and being ranked here in the last, having some bowl teams in the late 2010s era, even though they ran into some good dogs teams on the way. So I don't think I would bet on it, but I don't think also that the door is shut on the Big 12 and WSU.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I honestly, I'm excited to watch.
I didn't ask for your score though. Yeah. I got like on another tangent.
Oh, I gave you my score. It was like 40-28
Okay.
Huskies. It will be spicy at the beginning, but I think eventually the Huskies will pull away.
Okay.
And then the Michael Penix Heisman train continue.
I love watching Mike.
Yeah. Yeah.
I've never seen a guy just so effortlessly drop the ball wherever the heck he wants.
Just slings it.
Like, come on.
With the lefty, the archer. What is that celebration, by the way?
The archer?
Yeah, what is it just the archer?
Yeah, it's like when a dude makes a three in basketball, like he's just pinpoint accuracy.
Beautiful.
Boom.
Beautiful.
I like Mike. I think the Dogs win. I think the Dogs do it all. I think that the Pac-12 title game will be tough no matter who it's against.
Right.
I think they get it done one more time. Then the college football playoff, let's line it up and see what happens.
I love it. Well, we got an actual main course on Thanksgiving. We have on the day of several main courses, the main course in the NFL, the main course in Seattle, the main course across the country. If you talk about NFL Thanksgiving Day games, that was actually surprisingly hard to say just now.
Thanksgiving Day game. Yeah.
Yeah.
Tongue twister.
It is the Hawks and the Niners. The Niners come to Lumen Field, and Niko.
Yes.
This past week, we have to acknowledge the imaginary elephant in the room, that the Hawks did lose, not because of a missed field goal, but they came 1 point short. They could have kicked a field. They could have made a field goal to win the game against the Rams. That leads the Rams sweeping the Hawks. Not a good taste in the mouth at all. Also, Geno Smith does get injured in that game. And you've got some words about, what could happen this Thursday. But I just the end of that Hawks game, I think a lot of Hawks fans are feeling the same way I'm feeling right now.
I will say to that point,
right.
The same thing that happened to the Seahawks is actually the same thing that worries me about the Huskies. If there's one thing that worries me about them, in other words, they've played so many of these close games. Law of averages, and Pete Carroll even said this after the game Sunday. Yeah. Law of averages, one of them is not going to go your way.
Right.
And I worry that happens to the Dogs at some point. It hasn't yet. Good for them.
Right.
And certainly the college and pro games are different. But it was just last week, everybody was singing Jason Myers' praise because not only did he hit the game winner, but he was 5 for 5 on field goals to beat the Commanders. And then he missed the game winner. It was a tough kick, 55 yards.
Yeah, it's a hard kick.
Law of averages, Pete said, I'm paraphrasing here, but we made it last week. We didn't this week. It happens. It's the NFL.
Right.
And I don't think it's obviously more complicated than he would say that, but it's the point that they have played in a lot of close games. 3 of the last 4 games have come down to the last drive. They beat the Browns in that fashion. They beat the Commanders, as we just talked about, in that fashion. And again, law of averages, when they're all driving, the saying is they all drive Mercedes in the NFL. What's probably like more like Bentleys at this point, or Maseratis, whatever the famous one is now.
Right.
Tell how out of touch I am. No, I'm just kidding. But eventually, like, they're all incredibly talented athletes is the point of that cliche. And eventually, law of averages, a game like that's not going to go your way. And it finally bit the Hawks. You wish it didn't, because it comes at this crazy time where you have 4 days to bounce back. Geno Smith is expected to start, but he was knocked out of that game briefly, even before almost leading a valiant game-winning drive, which would have been the story of the week.
Well, let me ask you
aside from the Apple Cup stuff. Yeah.
Let me ask you about that drive, though, because, Geno Smith did get hurt,
Yeah.
He got hit. He got hit very hard by Aaron Donald, by the way, and I'm surprised it was actually an arm injury. You heard it on the broadcast. I was like, ouch, this is not ideal. And then, Drew Lock came in, and Drew Lock, he looked like a guy who hadn't really thrown to starting receivers in a while.
Yeah.
Kind of just like a little bit off. Drew Lock, I like Drew Lock. But then Geno Smith comes back in. Do you think that the Hawks were playing for a long field goal a little bit too much?
No, well, I think the time was so limited.
The time was limited, but it wasn't no time.
Well, here's the thing.
It wasn't
after so they get the big pass to DK, which was beautiful, fantastic.
Right.
Geno says that his headset and his helmet wasn't working after that.
Okay.
And Pete Carroll said it was just too much chatter, too much excitement.
Okay.
And so,
because they kicked the field goal with like 8 seconds left in the game.
Yeah. So the worry was there. So the handoff to Charbonnet was just like the next hot play.
Right.
It wasn't necessarily something like thrown in.
Sure.
The hope was that Charbonnet would have gotten more than 2 or 3 yards, and that's not on him. It's just there was a gap. The Rams filled it.
It's just good defense.
Yeah. No, but I think that at that point, there's no timeouts. I think they just spiked it. Maybe, like you said, maybe a second or two too early.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think, I mean, at that point, when you're down 1, I think they were playing for the field goal. They just would have liked to have made it. Yeah, they would have liked that maybe Charbonnet gets 7 or 8 yards instead of 2 or 3.
Sure.
And maybe that is the difference in Myers making that kick. I mean, it was probably a touch short, and it certainly was a little bit wide right.
It was, well, the kick itself, there was a lot to be desired from the kick itself.
Yeah, that's the thing. He's made so many big kicks. It's hard to hold that as the reason.
Well,
especially when you had 12 penalties for 130 yards.
A lot of penalties in the game. Yeah, well, the thing is, though, you only have about 4 days to fix those things. The Niners don't care about penalties. The Niners would probably beat a team without any penalties, truthfully. But what that loss does is that puts the Hawks a rung below the Niners in the NFC West standings. That's what it actually does.
Right.
In that head-to-head matchup on Thanksgiving, the main event. It's the last game of the 3, by the way. On the West Coast, you start early. You get a game at 9:30, then one at 1, and then this is the late course. This is you've already maybe eaten.
On the East Coast, they're probably passed out when this game starts.
Oh, they're definitely passed out. They're thinking about going out to the bars, at the end of Thanksgiving. But on the West Coast, is around 5. So maybe you may have already eaten, and I think maybe people are in between, maybe watching this with a little bit of a nap.
Yeah, sure.
A dessert with you before the second course. So I think this would be a great dessert game. Is what but I don't think it would be very sweet for the Hawks.
So you have your apple pie or your chocolate cream pie and watch the Hawks. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, I think so. I think for me, it'd be pecan pie because that's the superior pie.
That is a good debate for this podcast.
It's a good
pick your pie.
Oh man, for me it's pecan. I don't love apple pie so much.
If it's apple pie is like warm with ice cream, I'm good with it.
Ice cream. Yeah. Pumpkin is good too. Sweet potato is another favorite.
Sweet potato is good. Yeah.
There's also rhubarb, and other chocolate pies and things like that.
Yeah, chocolate with like mousse pie or whatever.
Mousse pie, yeah, those are good. What do you like?
I like apple. I like the chocolate mousse pie. I also like a good like blueberry type pie, maybe.
See, the thing is hot fruit. It just throws me. I just don't know.
I do. I like it though.
It's good. It's good.
So what do you think is going to happen in this game?
Oh man. Well, I think a lot of it depends on the health of Geno Smith.
Sure. I think he's okay.
They
called it like a bruise, and I don't have a tricep like Geno Smith. They called it like a bruise in the elbow tricep area.
It's a tight turnaround. The Niners, I think, given their record, they did have a bit of a slide, and see what you want about Brock Purdy. He doesn't have to be amazing all the time. He was amazing this past week though, because he had amazing players around him, and he's got amazing coaching behind him. And honestly, the Niners, I don't care what you say about the Eagles record. I don't care what you say about the Cowboys record. The Niners are the best team in the NFL.
Huh? They're better than the Eagles too.
100%.
Cool.
100%. Okay. I mean, just offensively, there's no weaknesses on defense. Yeah. The defense has been stacked for a long time, And then they added Chase Young on the defensive side. So I just
crazy.
I hope that Geno's healthy. I don't expect as much. And I don't expect as much maybe throwing because it depends on the health of Geno, and also this is a very, very good secondary from the Niners. I think I'd see a lot of runs from Christian McCaffrey, and maybe Elijah Mitchell and and Deebo Samuel on the Niners because of just they are a really, really, really good football team.
This is a tight turnaround for the Hawks. It's going to go one of two ways, in my opinion. They're going to win on a game-winning field goal by Jason Myers.
Well, that'd be great.
Or the Niners are just going to maybe not to the extent of the Ravens, or the Niners are just going to beat up on the Hawks because they're a little bit beat up.
Right.
That I think it goes one of two ways in this one. So we'll see.
This could be the big K9 game.
Well, if he's healthy.
Again.
So we'll see. I mean, and that's probably a game time decision. I didn't look good, and they expect Kenny McIntosh to play, and
right.
I think it could be Charbonnet's big breakout game. So
right.
I think that I think it goes one of two ways. Again, based on feel, not looking at matchups. It's either the Hawks, that defense, which has been really good, keeps them in it, and they have a chance to win late, and maybe they do. Or the Niners are just, kind of flex that muscle like Najee's not just showing us on the air, but talking about with the Niners. And then
slight flex.
Kind of going like that. So I think 6.5. I wouldn't touch it because I don't know. I don't know how this game goes.
It's here in Seattle. It's on Thanksgiving,
There's too many weird things going on with that, the quick turnaround, all that stuff.
Right. I just have, and I know Hawks fans are going to boo me, but honestly, be honest. The Niners are very, very good.
Sure,
they're very, very good, and the short turnaround is not doing any favors for the Hawks, given the slugfest that they had to go through in LA. When I tell you that Aaron Donald popped Geno Smith, he really popped him. Yeah. I was thinking because you heard it on the broadcast, like, oh man, this was not a soft hit at all. I just hope that if you're watching the Hawks game on Thanksgiving, if you're a Hawks fan, maybe have a bit more wine than you would normally have, or maybe just bring the eggnog in early. I'm hoping for a good game. I'm not as confident as the Hawks as I am, as the Huskies.
Okay.
Or as I am in the Huskies.
Okay.
Right.
And that's fair. And I think that's a fair point.
Right.
Hey, I want to give everybody a shout because we're going to try and do this early next week as well.
Right.
Because we have another Thursday Seahawks game when they take on the Cowboys November 30th.
Yeah.
And then we also have another early Huskies game when they play on Friday, December 1st. So Thursday, Friday next week, and it's Thursday, Saturday with the holiday this week. So we're going to do this early again next week. Keep an eye out for it.
Yeah.
Najee, that was fun.
That's been great. It's been great.
Yeah.
Great.
Go Dogs and go Hawk. Well, I can't say go Dogs this week because I don't want to upset the Cougs out there.
I want both teams to have a very, very good time.
And you know what? I was told by a great coach one time, when it's two teams that you're neutral with, you want one team to win by 1 point. But although I think that might just heartbreak whoever loses that. So whatever.
Someone is going to be heartbroken. There's going to be tears no matter this.
I can't wait to be there.
What. Yeah.
I can't wait to be there. So it's going to be a blast. We're going to give you full
beautiful
live coverage here on KOMO News. And again, make sure you check us out again early next week for that edition of the KOMO Sports Zone. So
on YouTube and Spotify, by the way.
Thank you, Najee.
Yes.
I'm Niko Tamurian. He's Najee Moye. We'll see you next week.
Bye-bye.